Good evening, I'm Ava, and welcome to NFL Trending. Tonight's top story takes us to Cleveland, where the Browns' quarterback situation and head coach Kevin Stefanski's future are now becoming intertwined in ways that could shape the franchise for years to come. The Cleveland Browns have been a team defined by instability at quarterback for decades. From draft busts to journeyman starters, from stopgap veterans to failed experiments, the Browns have rarely found long-term success under center. But now, the name Shedeur Sanders is entering the conversation, and the weight of his potential NFL future is colliding with the job security of Stefanski, the head coach tasked with steering this team forward. Let's break down what this means. Shedeur Sanders, son of NFL legend and Colorado head coach Deshaun Sanders, has quickly emerged as one of the most talked-about quarterback prospects in college football. His poise, accuracy, and ability to lead an offense have caught the attention of scouts, executives, and fans across the country. With his NFL draft eligibility on the horizon, Shedeur is becoming one of the most polarizing figures in football discussions. The Cleveland Browns, meanwhile, are facing uncertainty at quarterback. Deshaun Watson's future remains clouded by inconsistency, injuries, and questions about whether he will ever return to the Pro Bowl form he displayed in Houston. The Browns invested heavily in Watson, both in terms of draft capital and guaranteed money, but the results so far have been underwhelming. And in the NFL, patience is always short when it comes to quarterbacks. This is where Shedeur enters the equation. The Browns could very well find themselves in a position to consider drafting a quarterback in the coming years. And if Shedeur Sanders is available, the potential marriage between player and franchise could represent a fresh start. But here's the twist. Kevin Stefanski's future with the Browns may directly determine whether Shedeur ends up in Cleveland. Stefanski, the 2020 NFL Coach of the Year, entered the season with both praise and pressure. He helped deliver Cleveland its first playoff victory in decades, but since then, inconsistency has plagued the franchise. Injuries, quarterback instability, and tough divisional competition have tested Stefanski's ability to sustain success. While ownership values his steady leadership, fans are restless, and ownership is known to be impatient when expectations aren't met. So why is Shedeur Sanders' future tied to Stefanski? It comes down to organizational vision. If Stefanski remains in Cleveland, the Browns may be more committed to developing the current roster, continuing to build around Deshaun Watson, and focusing on winning now. But if Stefanski's seat gets hotter and a coaching change becomes inevitable, a new regime could bring in a new quarterback, and that's where Shedeur could come into play. NFL franchises rarely separate the fates of head coaches and quarterbacks. History shows us that new coaches often want their own quarterback, someone they can mold, someone who fits their system. If the Browns decide Stefanski's time is up, a coaching hire could immediately be linked to the pursuit of a fresh quarterback in the draft. And with Shedeur's star rising, it's not hard to imagine his name at the top of their list. Let's also look at the business side of this story. Shedeur Sanders brings not only talent but also marketability. With Deshaun Sanders as his father and mentor, Shedeur's entry into the NFL will carry immense media attention, endorsements, and fan intrigue. For a franchise like the Browns, who have long struggled with national relevance, Shedeur would bring both on-field potential and off-field star power. But again, drafting Shedeur requires alignment between the front office and coaching staff, alignment that could shift dramatically if Stefanski's job is in jeopardy. Now, what about Deshaun Watson? His massive contract is one of the most guaranteed deals in NFL history. The Browns gave up significant assets to acquire him, and moving on from him would be financially complicated. But as we've seen in the NFL, when franchises lose faith in a quarterback, they find ways to reset. The question for Cleveland is this: do they stay tied to Watson no matter what, or do they admit the gamble hasn't paid off and start fresh with someone like Shedeur Sanders? That decision could be the defining one of Stefanski's tenure, or the reason he doesn't survive beyond this season. Let's zoom out. Around the league, the Shedeur conversation isn't limited to Cleveland. Multiple teams are keeping a close eye on his progress. Scouts are already debating whether his style translates best to a West Coast system, a spread attack, or something more hybrid. Analysts compare him to quarterbacks like C.J. Stroud and Dak Prescott, praising his accuracy and pocket composure, but noting areas for growth, such as reading complex NFL defenses and handling pressure at the next level. He's still considered a work in progress, but the talent is undeniable. For Cleveland, the work in progress label is especially significant. If Stefanski is given more time, he might prefer to stick with Watson, arguing that the offense is still developing and just needs stability. But if ownership feels the progress is too slow, they could opt for a reset, and Shedeur could become the face of that reset. This dynamic makes every Browns game this season feel heavier. Wins could buy Stefanski time. Losses could accelerate change. And every step of the way, the shadow of Shedeur Sanders looms large. For fans, it creates a fascinating split. Some want Watson to succeed and finally deliver the consistency Cleveland has lacked. Others are already dreaming of Shedeur in brown and orange, revitalizing the franchise with fresh energy. The ripple effects extend beyond Cleveland. If the Browns do enter the quarterback market, other franchises will be impacted. Teams like the Falcons, Vikings, or Patriots could also be interested in Shedeur, creating a bidding war at the top of the draft. The Browns' direction, therefore, doesn't just affect their own future, it could shape the draft board and quarterback landscape across the league. It's also important to consider the Deshaun Sanders factor. Coach Prime has been very vocal about wanting his son in the right situation, with the right coaching, the right development, and the right organizational support. Would Deshaun endorse Cleveland as the right landing spot? That could depend heavily on whether Stefanski is there, or if a new coach with a proven quarterback track record steps in. The Sanders family will have influence, and NFL teams know it. So, where does this leave the Browns today? In limbo, caught between a highly paid veteran quarterback, a coach fighting for his long-term future, and the looming presence of a draft prospect who could change everything. It's a delicate balancing act, one where each decision directly affects the other. If Stefanski wins, Watson likely remains the starter. If Stefanski falters, Shedeur could become the symbol of a new era. And if that happens, the Cleveland Browns could once again find themselves rewriting their identity, this time around a quarterback whose name already carries weight across the football world.